Hey everyone, in today's video, you'll learn how to climb the credit card ladder. So have you ever wondered how some people can afford $20,000 first class flights? Well, most people in first class actually get their seats for free by utilizing credit cards. You can use credit card points and miles to fly free, but it's not an easy road to get there. We'll be covering everything you need to know to get to that point by climbing the credit card ladder. So this guide is not only for free travel, but if you're a beginner to credit cards and you want to learn more, or if you've had a bad start to credit cards and you want to rebuild your credit, or if you're stuck on what credit card to get, this guide will answer all of your questions. What you see on your screen right now is just an introduction to the cards in each tier, but we'll be going over many more cards in each tier so you can find the best fit for you. We'll also be going over how you can climb the credit card ladder, but before we start, we should know why we want to climb the credit card ladder. Climbing the credit card ladder gives you access to many different rewards that aren't seen on the credit cards near the bottom of the ladder. You'll be awarded points for daily spending, which can be used to get free travel or cash back. So this means everyday purchases like gas, food, or even your rent can give you points or even 2, 3, 4, or even 5% back. You get all of this while building your credit along the way. A low credit score can actually cost you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you have a low credit score, you can get a mortgage with a lower interest rate compared to a much higher interest rate if you have a bad credit score. Also, as you get higher in the credit card ladder, you'll get more travel benefits that you don't see in the beginner credit cards. These travel benefits can include airport lounges or even free travel like we discussed earlier. So to understand the credit card ladder, we'll go over the different tiers of the credit card ladder. So the credit card ladder has 5 tiers, and the first tier are the baby cards, and the second tier are the beginner cards. The third tier are mid-tier cards, and the fourth are the premium cards, and the fifth are the elite cards. For each tier, we'll go over the credit cards that are in it, and the credit score required for the tier, and how you can get to the next tier. So the first tier we're going over is the baby tier. There is no credit score required here, and anyone can get approved for these cards, which is what makes them beginner friendly. In this tier, you'll mainly see secured cards. A secured card is a card that requires you to put down a cash deposit up front to open an account. Then the amount of money you put down will be used as your credit limit. The point of a secured card is not to keep it for a long time, but to show creditors that you know how to manage a credit card. Since you're putting the money down first, there's no risk on the bank, and that's why these cards are for people who have no credit history. Another type of card that's in the baby tier are student cards. Student cards are regular credit cards, but they have lower credit limits, so it would be risky for the banks to lend you a large amount of money as a credit limit. At the baby tier, we can find cards like the Discover It Secured or the Chase Freedom Rise. You never want to pay an annual fee for a card until you get into the mid-tier level cards. You also don't want to stay in the baby tier for too long since there's not really any benefits you get from these cards. So what you want to do in this tier is build the fundamentals and build the right habits to have a good credit score in the future. You can do this by learning about what makes up your credit score and doing everything correctly so that you can move on to the next tier as soon as possible. One tip I can give you in this video, which plays a big part of your credit score, is to keep your utilization at 10% or under. But make sure to check out my other videos on my channel to learn about what goes into your credit score. You should expect to be in this tier for 6 to 12 months. The time can depend on a lot of factors like whether this is your first credit card or you're rebuilding your credit, so you're starting back at secured cards, but all of this plays a factor. But 6 months is when you get an official credit score from FICO, but if your credit score is lower than you expected after the 6 months, then you can take another 6 months to get it back on track before applying for the next tier of credit cards. The Discover It Secured is one of the most popular secured credit cards. That's because there's some pretty good benefits that come with it, and they're actually rare for a secure credit card. So you get 2% cash back on gas stations and restaurants on up to $1,000 in combined purchases each quarter. You also get 1% cash back on all other purchases. So the benefits aren't the best, but you shouldn't be expecting a lot from secured credit cards. You mainly should be looking to build the foundation of a responsible credit card user and also get into the next tier as quick as possible. Another baby tier credit card I recommend is the Chase Freedom Rise. So with the Chase Freedom Rise, you earn 1.5% cash back on everything you buy, but the most important factor is that it's a Chase credit card. When we get higher up the credit card ladder, you'll see that Chase offers a lot of great mid-tier and premium credit cards. So if you want to get approved for this, it's a good idea to start off with the Chase Starter credit card. Starting off with the Chase Starter credit card can let Chase build trust with you, so you'll have an easier time getting approved for the other Chase credit cards. So next are the beginner credit cards. These credit cards are going to offer some more benefits like 2% cash back instead of the 1% cash back we see with the secured cards. But before we get into the beginner cards, I want to let you know that you can apply for beginner cards as your first credit card if you have history with the bank you're applying for. So this means if you've had a checkings account with Chase for some time and you want to open your first credit card with Chase, you can go straight to their beginner cards instead of starting off at their secured or student cards. I had a checkings account with Wells Fargo and I got approved for the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card as my first credit card. And if we do some research on the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card, we can see that it's not a beginner card and you need a credit score that's in the good to excellent range. But I got approved for it as my first credit card because my checkings account was with Wells Fargo for some years. I recommend having a 660 credit score before you apply for beginner credit cards. But in the beginner tier, you're going to start to see sign-up bonuses that aren't offered for secured credit cards. When you see these sign-up bonuses, you want to see if you can hit them without applying for the credit card. This means if you see a credit card that says you get $500 after you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months, you don't want to spend extra money just to hit the sign-up bonus, but try to fit it into the amount you normally spend. At this tier, you'll also start to see higher credit limits given to you. Instead of the $300, $400, or $500 credit limit we see in the baby tier, we'll start to see $1,000 or $2,000 credit limits. This means you want to keep the fundamentals you built in the baby tier and also understand the credit limit is still your money and you will have to pay it back. You should expect to stay in this tier for another 12 months, but you'll be getting much better benefits in the beginner tier as opposed to the baby tier, so it won't be as hard to stay. The beginner and baby tier are very similar in the fact that it's mainly a test to see if you're gonna mess up or not. They don't offer the best rewards and there's no travel benefits in these tiers, but if you don't have the right habits, you can expect to stay in these tiers for 5 to 10 years. I'll be going over 4 cards in the beginner tier, and the first card is the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card. So I'm a heavy advocate of this card because of the simple rules it has. You get 2% cash back on all purchases and that's it. It also comes with a $0 annual fee and there's an easy sign-up bonus that everyone can hit. If you've had a checkings account with Wells Fargo, I would apply for this credit card as your first, since you would most likely get approved like I did. One problem with Wells Fargo is that there's not many premium cards with them, so there's no leverage to using this card. But if you manage your credit responsibly, then you won't have trouble or need leverage to get approved for premium cards. The next beginner tier credit card is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. This card is great because it has an easy sign-up bonus and an unlimited 1.5% cash back on all purchases, and 3% back on dining and drugstores, and 5% on travel purchases through Chase Travel. So if you want to get used to travel benefits and more of an all-around credit card, the Chase Freedom Unlimited is a card I would recommend. You can also redeem your Chase points for max value by starting off with the Freedom Unlimited. I can make a whole other video just on maximizing your Chase points, which I will, so make sure to subscribe, but this card is the base of that strategy. You can build up points on the Freedom Unlimited and then transfer your points to the Chase Sapphire Preferred and get more value off of each point. And then you can redeem them for travel. So you can even take it a step further by getting the Chase Sapphire Reserve after the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and then you can get more value for each point. But like I said, I'll be making a video on this in the future. Another beginner tier credit card is the Chase Freedom Flex. This credit card is similar to the Freedom Unlimited, but you get 5% back on up to $1,500 in combined purchases in quarterly categories. So each quarter you get 5% back on select categories, and we can see here the different categories for each quarter. This benefit does come at a cost though, since you'll be getting 1% back on everything else instead of the 1.5% with the Freedom Unlimited. The last beginner tier credit card we have is the Capital One Venture X credit card. This card gives you 1.5% cash back on every purchase, but it does come with a lot of benefits. So you get an Uber One membership and access to the Capital One travel portal. If you plan on getting the Capital One Venture X card down the line, I recommend getting this credit card. The Capital One Venture X is a premium credit card that we'll be going over later in this video, but it's one of my favorite travel credit cards. I recommend getting this credit card if you want the Venture X, since you can build history with Capital One and you can also transfer rewards earned from this card to the Venture X. So the next tier we have is the mid-tier credit cards. In the mid-tier, we'll start to see better travel benefits and annual fees. But try not to be scared of annual fees because most of the time you'll make the money back through the benefits and rewards you get from the credit card. Also, if you can't manage the annual fee anymore, you can always downgrade to a card in the beginner tier. For example, if you get the Chase Sapphire Preferred and you can't afford the $95 annual fee, you can call Chase and downgrade to the Freedom Unlimited or the Freedom Flex. You'll also start to see points coming into play. You get a certain number of points the more you spend and they can be redeemed for travel. That's why the mid-tier has travel-heavy cards, but to do well with the point system, you have to know how to optimize your credit cards. You always want to get the most out of each credit card, and you can do that by maximizing your Chase points or Amex points like we discussed earlier. Speaking of Amex and Chase points, you should choose whether you want to go after Chase cards, Amex cards, Capital One cards, or the rest of the cards. That's because you can transfer the points you earn from the mid-tier cards to the premium cards and get more value for each point, but it has to be between a specific bank. Also, the first two tiers is where you want to build the fundamentals, but from the mid-tier and on is where you start to see the real benefits of credit cards. You'll start to see dining-heavy credit cards and travel-heavy credit cards. So to get from the mid-tier to the premium tier, it should take about 6 months. But after you move on from the beginner tiers, you start to speed up the process since you already have the fundamentals down. But don't rush the process to move on from this tier since it'll be a great place to be and the benefits will be worth it. One last thing to talk about before going into the credit cards in the mid-tier is the sign-up bonuses we'll see in this tier. In the beginner tier, we saw sign-up bonuses that gave us $200 to $500, but in the mid-tier, we'll start to see sign-up bonuses of anywhere from $500 to $1,000. These sign-up bonuses can be harder to hit since it'll require more money to spend, but that's why you want to make sure you can hit it beforehand. To get into the credit cards in the mid-tier, we have the Amex Gold, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and the Amex Cash Preferred. So to start off, we'll go over the Amex Gold. The Amex Gold comes with a large annual fee of $250, but after you spend $6,000 in the first 6 months of having the credit card, you get 90,000 reward points. When we go down, we can see that this card is extremely good for food. You get 4 times points on restaurants and groceries, 3 times points on flights, and 1 times points on everything else. You also get $120 in dining credit and $120 in Uber Cash, which is $240 combined yearly. So if you use the dining credit and Uber Cash, you'll only be losing $10 a year since the annual fee is $250. But then when you add up the points you get from using the card, you'll be well into the positives. But some people can be worried about the high annual fee regardless of what you'll earn. So if that's you, I would not recommend this card because there are some mid-tier cards out there which have a much lower annual fee. The mid-tier card that has a much lower annual fee is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. So the Sapphire Preferred comes with an annual fee of $95 and the sign-up bonus gives you 75,000 points after you spend $4,000 on purchases in the first 3 months of account opening. You also get 3 times points on dining and 2 times points on travel. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is one of my favorite credit cards for the low annual fee and how you can pair it with the Freedom Unlimited or the Freedom Flex in the beginner tier cards. You can take the cash back you earn from the Freedom Unlimited and transfer them for points on the Sapphire Preferred to get 25% more value. That's one way to optimize your credit cards and get the most value out of the points you earn. The last credit card we have in this tier is the Amex Blue Cash Preferred card. This card comes with a $0 annual fee for the first year and a $95 annual fee for the second year and on. You also get 6% back on groceries, 6% back on streaming services, 3% back on transit, and then 3% back on gas and 1% back on everything else. Now, you do have to sacrifice a sign-up bonus since there is no sign-up bonus, but 6% on groceries is much higher than what we see on other credit cards. Those were the best mid-tier cards in my opinion, and you should get approved for them with a credit score over 690. But the Chase Sapphire Preferred can be a little bit harder to be approved for since it's part of the Sapphire collection, but the Amex Gold should be easy to get into if you have a 690 or higher. The next tier is the premium tier. So the premium tier has cards that have the best travel benefits we can find. The cards we see in this tier are best for people who travel frequently since you'll get the most use out of them. But the best travel benefits also come with the heavy annual fee associated with the card. So the annual fees can range anywhere from $200 to $800, but if you're a frequent traveler, it'll definitely be worth the annual fee. The credit cards also come with lounge access at airports, which do have free food. And the credit score I recommend before applying for these cards is a 740 plus, since they do seem to be selective on who they approve. But at this point though, you should have already built the fundamentals of being a responsible credit card user, so a 740 credit score shouldn't be too hard to achieve. Once you get into this tier, it can be hard to move on to the next tier, since the next tier are invite-only credit cards. But the premium tier is a great place to be, and many people spend the rest of their credit card careers at the premium tier. I'll be covering 2 credit cards that are in the premium tier, and these cards are the American Express Platinum and the Capital One Venture X card. I actually won't be going over the Capital One Venture X card since I actually dedicated a whole video on reviewing it, so make sure to check it out on my channel. American Express Platinum card comes with a $695 annual fee, but you get 125,000 points after you spend $8,000 in the first 6 months of having the credit card. You also get many different credits, but one benefit I like the most is access to the Centurion Lounge. The Centurion Lounge is one of my favorite airport lounges because of the variety of foods that are available, but also how you can get away from the crowded airport. But when we go down some more, we can see that you get 5 times points on flights and hotels, and also 1 times points on all other purchases. You can see that this card is mainly a travel credit card, but that's why I said the premium tier offers many travel benefits. But I would mainly get this card if you travel a lot, but if you don't, I would stick to mid-tier credit cards or maybe the Capital One Venture X. So I just want to give a quick recap before we go on to the other elite tier credit cards. So the baby and beginner tier credit cards are to build the foundation of your credit card knowledge, but when you get to the mid tier, you want to start optimizing and maximizing your points for the best rewards possible. Then you should move on to the premium tier if you're a frequent traveler. But if you don't travel that much and you just want to enjoy your credit cards for daily spending like gas and food, I would just stay in the mid tier. The last and craziest credit card tier is the elite tier. The elite tier is made up of invite-only credit cards that only a small percentage of people can achieve. These cards are extremely hard to get, but for example, the JP Morgan Chase card requires you to have $10 million in assets just to even be considered for the card. And it also comes with a $550 annual fee. But the card on your screen is the American Express Centurion Black card, which requires you to pay a $10,000 annual fee for the first year and a $5,000 annual fee for every year after the first. There also has been rumors that you need to spend a minimum of $500,000 a year to even be considered for this American Express card. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on these cards since many people aren't on this level yet, but I added this tier to show you how far credit cards can take you. So the credit card game can have no end to it, so I recommend finding a place where you're comfortable and it fits your spending habits. There's no need to get the best credit cards if you're not going to use them or if they don't benefit you. So you might think the elite tier credit cards have the best benefits and rewards, but they're actually extremely similar to the premium or mid-tier credit cards. That's why I recommend people to not get caught up in the symbol of credit cards, but make sure you understand the benefits of the cards first. But let me know if you have any questions on the premium tier or elite tier credit cards that I skimmed through. Many people are at the mid tier or under, so I try to spend a lot of time on those credit cards rather than the higher tier credit cards. But if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Also, if you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate it, and make sure to subscribe if you want to learn more about credit cards, and also leave a like if you enjoyed the video.